About the meaning of art. The main purpose of art is not to entertain or surprise, but to open the source of creativity in human souls. If a piece of art fails to do this, it is not art at all, but a handcrafted fake. A piece of art must suggest a feeling of presence of heaven in human life. The soul cannot ignore this impulse, and the springs of its unspent opportunities begin to beat in it. Seek the Lord in life and find Him, as Rubli, Dionysius, Bach, Mozart did. Be able to feel the constant presence of God in everything, and your piece of art will excite the souls even centuries later. Explicit earthly affairs are nothing compared to the work of the human soul. These earthly affairs, focused on meeting the needs of the body, do not bring joy to the Lord. But the work of the soul, which is embodied on paper, canvas, or in musical harmony, is the very best that man can give to his heavenly Father. For He creates like He does. Here is a parable about it. A grain farmer mocked an artist. "I do real work, unlike your useless daubbery on canvas. No one can eat that." The Lord looked at the grain farmer with regret. His daily bread was only an ear of grain. But for the artist, it was his agonizing desire to render gratitude with his art to the Creator for the beauty he could see all around him in the world. Art represents a model of the world that can improve it if human souls wish to implement it on earth. Otherwise, what is artistic creativity for? Illuminating the dark side of life with his talent, the artist is obliged to cause, thereby, in the viewer, the art with another, opposite sign. Starting from the contrary, the viewer must create a model of a healthy world full of light inside himself. If it does not happen, it means that the artist either is not skillful enough or lacks the awareness of what the true purpose of art is. Genres of art should become the property of the soul rather than the mind. Let us try to describe how it is possible by some examples from painting. Landscape is admiring the surrounding world, made by the Creator with love and patience. Still life is admiring individual objects and their combinations. The things created by God and man must become the elements of still life. Such a combination will find its place in the soul, rather than having been created by man alone. For the creative relationship of the Creator and His creation is more obvious in still life, composed of natural and man-made elements, while the relationship with the Lord always warms the soul. Portrait is a kind of final test for man. He must show the essence of his soul, how much light of the Lord there is in it. Art that reflects real life. These are genre scenes in painting, plays in the drama, many forms, describing events in their dynamic development in literature, is a very difficult thing, probably the most difficult one. How is it possible to present the ideal model of the world without falling into teaching and giving instructions, into preaching and overseeing? After all, the purpose of art, I repeat, is the creation of some healthy model of the world in the heart and mind of the viewer. This model should appear in the soul and mind of the artist, and whether it is successfully reproduced in the viewer depends on the degree of the artist's skill. Ways to achieve the desired may differ, but if the artist himself clearly imagines a healthy, bright and spiritual world illuminated by God, only one thing is required. That is to take the thought form as the basis for the piece of art being created. Either an image of such an ideal state of the world, or a deep and tragic craving for it, can recreate in a viewer the thought form which is behind the piece of art. And if this thought form appears in the minds of many viewers, so perhaps it will be implemented in the course of time. Art is the creation of harmony. Only the artists who draw impressions from their souls, which remember the world they have emanated from, are capable of doing so. A true piece of art connects this world to another one, the name of which is harmony. There are practically no such artists left anymore. There are some masters, but there are no people who understand that to create a piece of art is possible only by dedicating your life to it. People often say it out loud, but do not do it in reality. The soul which remembers the world of harmony and tries to connect it to the earthly world spends its energy on implementing this idea. And that is why a true artist shortens his life by exercising his talent. But this is his happiness, for that is the reason for his incarnation on earth. The art, which we call new, is not art at all, but an infantile disease of souls. Infantile diseases come and go without leaving a trace, and it is strange that we cherish such art in our museums, rather than refuse to follow in the wake of satanic promises. As soon as this collection of human attempts to create something unprecedented disappears from the world, perhaps instant recognition of the genuine will appear along with an attempt to acknowledge it as a piece of art. Here is a parable about it. The Lord said to an artist who gave nothing to him while telling the others that he leads his hand, "It is very simple to determine whether it is true or not. If I led your hand, it would not look like a chaotic jumble of color patches, the meaning of which is inexplicable. I am so reasonable that I give not puzzles of sense, but a puzzle of a different kind. How could this harmonious combination of colors and forms that draw other people to tears of joy come to mind?" The task of the artist should be set out the following way. Try to connect the fleeting with the eternal in your art. Seek the eternal in the fleeting. What would it look like in practice? Here is some imaginary painting. Imagine a desert, an endless, barren, sultry one, where it seems there is no life, and there is a blade of grass on the sand. It is pictured as if the sun is always resting on the blade. Let there be such colors which remind the soul of the world it has come from. A blade of grass, with the sun basking on it, is a symbol of life, knowing that some sun dominates its life. And that sun is the Lord, and he also needs love, which a blade of grass gives to the sun in the middle of the dead desert. A piece of art must be clear to the soul, otherwise it will remain deaf to it. Art trends, genres, styles, and different classifications are just traps for the mind. But the soul requires the light radiated by the work of the artist. The soul responds to the light because only the genuine touches it. Admiration for fakes is unlikely to be valued by the soul. As a rule, the soul keeps silent unless it is obscured by everlasting darkness. The soul may be touched by something which corresponds to the original bright impulse lying in its depth, For the Lord, the origins of man are the essence, and the task of an artist is to try to express them in his work. That is, he must think the way the Lord thinks. But the soul should be unadulterated by such thoughts. How is it possible to preserve it in a world full of satanic tricks? Everyone is looking for one's own ways, and they all are beautiful, as they have been sought through the exertion of the Spirit, by its ascension to the light of the Lord. Here is a parable about it. Without realizing it, an artist painted the image of the Lord. From now on, the Lord said to him, I shall help you to picture not only what you see around you, but the heavenly world as well. I do not know what it looks like, the artist was confused. How can I depict something that I have never seen? How did you paint my image then? I do not know, the artist replied. It wasn't you who painted it, the Lord answered him, but your soul, which led your hand. It knows everything, because it is part of me. Therefore, do not be afraid of anything, as your soul is now aware of the heavenly world, and it will help your hand to picture it on canvas. Art is similar to the creation of the world, but similarity inspires the soul of the artist as well. Similarity does not mean something secondary. In this case, creation means that man has reached the peak of his abilities. But it is only necessary to create only what the soul is ready to give its full light to. Therefore, it makes sense to create a likeness of celestial harmony. Otherwise, the artist will become suicidal, for the creation of darkness kills his soul. Perfection for the soul is a certain measure of beauty, which the soul sees as something absolute, immutable, and final. We talk about something beautiful, that is all there is to it. Such perfection can become the source of inspiration for truly creative people. But for those who do not know inspiration, the same perfection has a different response: anger and despondency. We have named new art as an artist's misunderstanding of his call. Those skilled creators of paintings and pieces of music, whom we call the geniuses of a new era, do not lead a human soul to the light of the Lord, but, on the contrary, immerse it in a wave of purely terrestrial vibrations. Even if the sun had been shining in their works, it remained only a celestial object, but not a symbol of a certain creative and life-giving beginning. The sun is the crucible of destruction of everything undue, interfering with existence. But artists have made the sun only part of the landscape. They did not sense that symbol of destruction of evil, and the appearance of another beginning, a good one, which the sun is. Art should become a constantly improving attempt for both yourself and the viewer to escape from the scope of the visible, recognizable world to other horizons, to a clear sensation, if not understanding, of the world which is much more majestic, impressive, and harmonious. The world which emerges through earthly realities should be a vibrant one, rather than a certain symbol or an idea. Who out of the artists of the past managed to achieve this? Bach did. A vibrant heaven sang in his music. The music of other composers also has a reflection of heaven, and that is fine. Artists who are able to feel heaven are unique creatures. Hieronymus Bosch was in a certain sense the likeness of God in the world. That is how extraordinarily the process of creation of some absolute forms may be personified. Michelangelo Buonarroti knew how to impart heaven. The act of creation was clearly felt in his figures, protruding from stone, sometimes uncouth. He knew how to make an expression of recognition of the earthly world even with faces, as if they had come out of heaven and had seen the earth all of a sudden. Leonardo da Vinci was able to impart heaven so that it was felt like a world of harmony. He managed to surround the earthly landscapes with the air as if it had come down from heaven. Leonis was looking for heaven on earth, and some of his efforts were successful. He existed on the vacillating border of two interrelated worlds, both in music and painting. Rockwell Kent was able to introduce heaven into an engraving with a certain stroke. It was what the soul was looking for, and sometimes the cutting tool in the hand obeyed its orders. Art should seek heaven and draw the soul closer to it. Make it spread the wings it has forgotten about. Otherwise, what do we need art for? Human nature requires a source of inspiration, and for art to get through to the soul, it is necessary to find its source in heaven rather than on earth.